Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to get started on the blueprint system, which is what we will be using to create our game. So blueprints are basically a way of scripting your game. Scripting is just to basically make things happen, would be the most simple way to explain it. And if you go into the first person BP folder, there's this first person character and you can see it's a blueprint. And if we open this up and click on viewport, here is our character. And what you can actually do is you can drag and drop the character into the level like so. So we'll go into the blueprint and you can see a list of all the components that this blueprint uses. And if we go into the event graph, here's where we do all of our scripting. Now our first aim is just to remove all of the VR stuff from this blueprint. So there are several components that VR uses. That is the motion controllers, so we can go ahead and select these. Motion controller, VR gun and VR marker, and just hit delete on those and then hit compile. Whenever you make changes, you'll want to compile the blueprint. Now you can see there's some errors because we removed some things, but they're actually still being used. So if we go and click on this target thing here, we can view some of these errors. So once we've selected event graph, we're just going to go in here and we'll start off by just deleting these nodes. And in fact, we can just take this cable and connect it in here. What this is doing is it's just doing some different stuff depending on whether we're using motion controllers, which is a VR feature, but no need to worry about that. We can delete all of that. We're not using VR. And click on using motion controllers and delete that as well. So just press delete on your keyboard, delete it, hit compile. You'll see we still have one more error. Go ahead and click on that. And you can see it's up here. What we can actually do is just drag and select all of this and just press delete. And you can delete this part as well. What we're doing is we're just getting rid of all of the VR stuff. We don't want any VR. We can select this part, delete that. And there's one more here. We can just drag this into here and just delete the rest of this stuff that's not being used anymore. And that's it. VR is now out of the project. So now when you click compile, you'll see that a check mark will come up and you shouldn't have any errors as long as you did everything exactly how I did it. Once you've hit compile, you can also hit save to make sure our blueprint is saved and all of our changes are remembered when we load the project back up. Now if you click on the character and the level, you'll now notice that there's only about 6 components or 7 components. So it just makes things a lot more simple for us moving forward. Now if I click play, we can actually run round. And this drop down menu here has an option number of players, and this is going to be used a lot to test out our game later on. So you can simulate an online game and how your game will work when you go to play it online. So I'm just going to hit 2 players and I'm going to select new editor window. And now you can see that there are 2 players in the game. And you can see I can actually run around and we can see the other player's gun, but we cannot see the other player's body. The reason for that is because if we look at the character, the only thing it has is the arms. It doesn't have a body. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the body. So we'll click on the blueprint. Now you can see there's already a component we can use for this called mesh. There's a component for our character. It's not even being used. It just has nothing selected as its mesh. So what we can do is literally just click and select SK mannequin. And here it is. Here's the mannequin. Now it's a little bit out of place, so we're just going to move it down a little bit. Make sure that it's inside of the capsule. And we're going to hit E on our keyboards to rotate and then just rotate it so that it's facing forwards. And then from there, there's one last thing to do, and that's select the animation blueprint. We won't go too much into animation blueprints, but it's a blueprint that controls how our character does animation. We'll be looking at those in a later video though. For now, just click the drop down here and select Hero TPP Anim Blueprint. This is a blueprint that comes with the animation starter pack and is already ready for us to use. And actually, I'll just move my character down a little bit more. I'm going to go with -95 for his position. You can see that looks pretty good. And now here's my character. There's one problem though. If I compile and save and hit play, notice we can actually see our character, and that's not what we want at all. So if I go to the character here and select the mesh, there's an option called owner no see. So in the search box, just type in owner and you'll see owner no see. If you check this box, it will mean that the person who owns this character won't be able to see it. And check it out, we can no longer see our character. So we can run around, and you'll notice his gun's out of place. We're going to fix it in a little bit. And one other issue is, for some reason, this mesh is not facing the right way. So I'm just going to delete our character from the level. It really doesn't need to be there. And what will happen is it will just automatically spawn one in anyway, as you can see. And now we should be facing the right way. So we can see other players in our game. And this is all networked thanks to a component. If we open up the first person character, you remember I said actors are made up of components. Well, there's one component that comes in Unreal Engine for us already. It's called the character movement component. And this handles all of the movement, and it also has networking built into it. So we don't even need to build networked movement, which in a real game might take months to do. It's already ready for us. If I run around, other players can see me run around, and that saves us a huge amount of work. One more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on our gun, this component here called FP gun, and I'm just going to go to owner, and you can see there's owner no see and only owner see. I want only the owner to be able to see the gun. If I hit compile and save again and hit play, now we can see the other player but we can't see their gun. So now we're going to give our third person character a gun. So we'll open up the first person character here. And you can see in our list of components, there is this thing called mesh. And that's what we're using for our third person mesh. And what you do is you parent components to each other. So the third person mesh gun is going to be a child of this component. So to do that, we simply just click on this third person mesh. And we click add component and type in skeletal mesh. And I'm going to call this third person gun. And we'll just make it the same asset. So if you click on third person gun for the mesh, click FP gun. And now watch what happens. You can see the gun on the floor. So other people's guns do show up, but it just doesn't attach to their hands. So how do we do that? And also if you look down, you can see your own gun. Now, you should only see your own first person gun and you shouldn't see your own third person gun. So just as we did before, we're just going to enable owner no see for our third person gun. And now when you look down, you cannot see your own third person gun. Okay, so now we need to attach the third person gun to the third person body's arms. So to do that, we're going to use a socket. Now we've already attached the first person gun to the first person arms, so the process is the exact same. Inside of the construction script, we can do some blueprint logic, and it will execute when the blueprint is constructed, aka when it's created basically. So we're saying when we create this blueprint, attach the first person gun to the first person arms. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit copy, and then I'm going to hit Control V to paste. And we're using this node here. It's called attach to component, and all it will do is it will attach one component to another component. We do need to tell it what we are attaching to and what the component is. So hold Control and drag in third person gun, connect that up, and then for the second one you want to go ahead and plug in the mesh because we want to attach the third person gun to the third person mesh, like so. And we're going to leave the socket name as grip point and hit compile. The problem with this is it's not going to do anything because our third person body mesh does not have a socket called grip point. So what we need to do is add one of those now. And to do that, we're going to open up the SK Mannequin. So click on mesh and then double click on SK Mannequin. Click on skeleton. Right click on hand R and click add socket. And then call that socket grip point by clicking rename and then typing grip point. Make sure you type that correctly, by the way. And you can see what the gun will look like in our hand by right clicking on grip point and then clicking on add preview asset and selecting FP gun, like so. Now you can see that the gun doesn't really sit in our hand properly, so what I'm going to do is just rotate it, and I think rotating it to about there is good. So you can see the relative rotation. I've just set the Z as 70. Now if we go back and hit compile and save and go into the viewport, you can see our character's actually holding the gun. Now it's not holding it very well. We might actually want to try 60 and then go back. Oh, no, that's not very good. Let's try 80. We'll type 80 in and then we'll hit save and then go back, and you can see that now he is holding the weapon pretty good. You could adjust that even more if you wanted to, but I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll go ahead and save, hit play. And now you can see that each character is holding their own gun. Now the hold position might be slightly off. You can adjust the socket's location a bit more if you want to get it perfect, but I'm happy with that. So now we can see other players' guns. There's also the ability to shoot. If you click left mouse button, you'll be able to shoot other players right now, but it doesn't do anything. It is just a cosmetic effect. So there we go. There's our first little bit of blueprint scripting. We used something called the construction script. The construction script will happen when we are constructing the blueprint, and then there are a whole lot of other things we can do in this thing called the event graph. But the construction script is to do certain things when we create this blueprint. So when the blueprint's created, attach the first person gun to the first person arms and attach the third person gun to the third person body, and that's all we're doing right now. And like I said, there's other stuff going on in here, but we will be looking at that a bit later on. So thanks for watching this lesson, and I'll see you guys in the next one, where we will jump into looking at this thing called the event graph.